The impossible rule. Imagine someone ordering you to stop laughing, not because you broke a law and not because you hurt anyone, but because people believed joy itself could make a woman lose her honor. In old societies, a single moment of public happiness could be judged as a flaw in her character. Silence became a virtue. Obedience became beauty. Restraint became respect. And it didn't stop there. Every step, every word, every glance, every gesture, someone had already decided how a proper woman should behave. The real question is, who created these rules? And why were they so afraid of women simply acting like themselves in ancient times? Every move is being watched. You wake up before saying a single word. There are already rules waiting for you. You get dressed, and the wrong clothing can make people question your character. You step outside. Your walk is expected to be calm, controlled, and quiet. People are watching. You greet someone. Too much. Confidence can be seen as arrogance. Too much laughter can become gossip before the day is over. You sit with your family. You don't interrupt. You don't speak over the men. You wait until it's your turn, if your turn comes at all. Hours pass. Nothing terrible happens. No one shouts, no one hits you. Yet every decision is already made for you, not by you, but by the rules everyone expects you to follow. Who made the rules? You live under these rules every single day. Breaking one does not always end with a prison cell. Sometimes the punishment is something much quieter, a damaged reputation, neighbors whispering behind your back, parents warning their daughters not to become like you, families refusing to arrange a marriage. A mistake made in public could follow you for years, so you learn. You lower your voice before anyone asks. You hide your opinions before anyone disagrees. You stop yourself before someone else has to. That is how many of these rules survived. Not because a guard stood on every street, but because families, neighbors, religious traditions, and local customs repeated them until they felt normal. Yet history was never completely one-sided. The same societies that demanded obedience also left behind women who ruled kingdoms, owned businesses, wrote poetry, influenced politics, and challenged the limits placed on them. The rules were real. So were the people who found ways to live beyond them. The evidence. You open a history book, then another, different country, different language, different century. Yet women were slave to freedom. In ancient Greece, respectable women were expected to remain modest and avoid drawing attention to themselves in public. In Confucian China, writings taught that a woman's virtue was measured through obedience, restraint, and proper behavior. Across parts of medieval Europe, religious and social expectations encouraged women to be quiet, humble, and submissive. Centuries later, Victorian England praised women who were gentle, reserved, and emotionally controlled. None of these civilizations copied one another. They lived thousands of kilometers apart, spoke different languages, and followed different religions. Yet they all shared similar expectations. Different world, same idea. The less attention a woman attracted, the more society praised her. The cost of breaking the rules, you laugh not loudly, just enough for the people around you to hear. The conversation stops. An older woman turns her head and stares. Another quietly shakes her head. Nobody says anything to you? Not yet. You leave. As you walk through the street, two women stop talking the moment you pass. A man looks at you, then looks away. By the time you reach home, someone has already arrived before you. Your family already knows. You never told them. They didn't need you to. The village did it for you. That evening, your mother closes the door behind you. She doesn't ask what happened. She already believes the story. She tells you to lower your voice, to stop drawing attention, to remember how a respectable woman behaves. The next morning, nothing looks different. The market is still open. Children are still playing. People are still working, but something has changed. The smiles you usually receive never come. The conversations end as you approach. An invitation your family expected never arrives. Nobody announces a punishment. Nobody reads a sentence. Nobody builds a prison. They simply decide you no longer deserve the respect you had yesterday. And once enough people make that decision, the rules no longer need guards. The people enforce them themselves. The rules begin to break. You wake up. Nothing has changed. The same house, the same streets, the same rules. But today, you decide not to follow one of them. You laugh not because you are trying to make a statement, but because something is genuinely funny. The room freezes. An older woman quickly nudges your arm. Enough. You don't stop. For the first time, you let everyone hear you. People stare. Some look offended. Others look nervous. One person quietly smiles, then immediately hides it. You leave the house. The streets are busy. You walk without lowering your head. People notice. An older man frowns as you pass. Two women whisper to each other. A child looks confused. Nobody says anything until one voice finally breaks the silence. You've forgotten how a respectable woman behaves. You keep walking. The words follow you farther than your footsteps. footsteps. Days pass. The whispers don't disappear. Neither do you. Another woman watches what happened. A week later, she speaks a little louder than before. Months later, someone else refuses to lower her eyes. Then another, then another. Not every woman joins them. Many stay exactly as they were taught. Some are too afraid. Some believe the rules should never change. Others simply don't have the choice. But something has started. Not a revolution. Not all at once. Just small moments. One person refusing one rule, then someone else refusing another. The rules still exist. But for the first time, people begin questioning whether they should still keep quiet. Why am I treated like a criminal just for laughing? Has my own happiness become something I should be punished for? Is being a woman a crime? No, I refuse to accept this fate. You begin to realize that if disobeying those who control you is the only way to finally live as yourself, then you would not hesitate. Even as a woman, even if the world turns against you, even if people hate you for choosing your own freedom, you would still choose it. Because freedom means more than acceptance. It means having the right to exist as who you truly are. Being born as a woman is not a curse. It is a blessing given by God. A woman's existence is not something to be ashamed of or something that needs to be hidden. It is a gift, a strength, a blessing, and a part of the beauty of humanity itself. When the old rules lost control, you wake up in a different world. The rules are still there, but they no longer control everything. A girl who was once expected to stay at home walks through the doors of a classroom. A woman who was once kept away from public decisions signs her own name on a document. A worker enters a factory, earns money, and gains something that many women before her never had: independence. The old system depended on one thing: keeping women separated from opportunities, but the world around them begins changing. Cities grow, factories need workers, schools expand, books become easier to access, ideas travel faster than ever before. A woman who learns to read can discover arguments written by people she has never met. A woman who earns money can make choices that were once impossible. A woman who enters public life becomes harder to ignore. The old expectations do not disappear overnight. Some families fight to keep them, some governments protect them, some communities continue enforcing them, but every new opportunity creates another person who sees the world differently. The rules that once seemed permanent begin losing their power, not because everyone suddenly agreed, but because the world that created those rules was changing. And once people gain new choices, old restrictions become much harder to maintain. The rules that never fully disappeared. You open a history book. The old rules are still there, written down and passed between generations. Rules about how women should speak, how they should dress, how they should behave. For many places, those rules are no longer enforced by law. A woman can vote, a woman can study, a woman can work. A woman can choose a path that earlier generations could never imagine. But laws are not the only things that shape behavior. Some expectations survive quietly. A woman speaks confidently. Someone calls her aggressive. A woman shows anger. Someone calls her difficult. A woman chooses a different path. Someone questions her choices. The punishment is no longer always a written rule. Sometimes it is a judgment, a comment, a reputation, a pressure to return to what people consider acceptable. The world that created those ancient restrictions has changed, but the idea behind them, the belief that society has the right to decide how someone should behave, has appeared again and again throughout history. Thousands of years ago, a woman's laugh could be judged. Today, the rules may look different, but the question remains: who gets to decide how a person is allowed to live, man or women? Everyone deserves equal freedom and justice.